morning. It's so nice to have you here for Coffee at 10, and I'm super excited about this panel conversation. We have so many local talented artists, and this group does observational figure drawing. We call it figure drawing, life drawing. We have Long Pose Studio. We have a great program here at Purgatory, and these are accomplished artists who participate in that program. And so grateful that they're willing to come and talk to you about the development of their practice and using the figure for their work. And so we have an illustrated talk. Before we get started, I just want to introduce, I know most people here, but I'm Sheila Ruin. I'm the visual arts director here. And probably know Alyssa back there. Alyssa runs the sales gallery. So anyway, so I just want to, the format today is going to be a little bit like we did for our other panel. Each person is going to have about 10 minutes to talk, and then we'll have 8 to 10 minutes to talk, and then for questions and conversation. So I'm not going to go into their biographies here. They're going to talk about themselves. So I'm just going to introduce their names, and then Cynthia will start, and then we'll proceed kind of down the line here. So this is Cynthia Rutherford, and we have Patrick, Heidi.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So so we'll get started, and let's take it on.
So hi, good morning. This is I just learned about this, so I'm in this event, so I'm not going to give a speech, but I can tell you that life drawing is totally one of my passions. And when we started it here, maybe 20 years ago, it was in the library building, and we just invented it as we went along. But we had some amazing models, and I'm going to preface this whole thing with all of us that we need more models. We need models who will be comfortable, because that's a whole key to comfortable being nude. And that's the whole key to ending up with an amazing piece or a dozen amazing, sketches. So if you know anyone or you yourself, it's such a cozy, comfortable environment. It's like 4 to 10 artists, all artists. It's not voyeurs. It's people that want to draw the human body. So anyway, we have some slides, and I began this image. I can't see it, so I'm going to go here. Is okay. I went to college in 1967, so it was and I went to a small high school, and so my opportunity to draw the human figure, which I did in art all the time, it was limited. And everyone begins their drawing experience as a kid with images that they're already supposed to draw. A house looks like this, a dad looks like this, a dog looks like this is a tree. And so we embed that until we get into an environment where we get a live nude model that has a real human body. And then you start seeing, and that's the whole key, I think, to drawing in any subject, but for me, drawing the human body, because you know a leg is cylindrical, but you don't until you start looking, you don't see all the lushness or all the things that cover up the skeleton. Because when I was my first year in college, this was my anatomy, and the Atlas of the Human Anatomy, and it's gone through the years of my teaching, and that's what I thought. I thought the human skeleton, which in high school we had a human skeleton hanging in the art room. Oh, well, that's how I have to draw. And so when we got to have a nude model at Central, she was amazing. She was just this long-haired, big-breasted, comfortable woman that could just stand or sit. And some of my best drawings are from that model. And this one, that's the original charcoal, which I turned into a lithograph and printed. And so that's still one of my favorite memories. So we can, so I sent some of my college images. So another thing that we did, and what I am very aware of, is negative space. So the assignment was to paint around the pose. And am I standing in front of it? Okay. And so for me, that's like mind the gap, you know, what's not there is as important as what is there. So yeah, that was, and those we do, and we do this when we have the models here. 15, or we do the first 15 minutes to just loosen up. So it's like 2 or 3 minute poses, and they just, you know, they move, and then you quick draw it. And for me, I mean, I draw with charcoal and graphite, but I draw with a paintbrush. I have a particular paintbrush that I just put in sloppy paint water, and so that's what that was done with. So gesture again, those are probably 3 minute, you know, where you just are focusing on shapes. And that gesture drawing isn't it like, it's just like a huge release. It's just like, so we can do another image and another gesture. And they're sloppy, you know, but I think what I see, and I see it with Egon Schiele, I see it with Bob Scudder, I see it with, when you do a gesture drawing, there's energy. It's just like, pow, you knew that you can almost just feel the energy. So, okay, so this was that same model, and this was, she was amazing. Anyway, that was a focus, and I don't remember exactly what the assignment was. That's from 1967. But yeah, again, negative space, which was important. And we can go on, I think this is probably the last one from college, another gesture. Oh, no, there's another one. Yeah, okay, so this is hanging in my studio, that's what you're seeing. This was her again, and this was a longer piece. So I had this whole obsession with cross-hatching back then, and so that ended up being an actual composition rather than just a sketch, which then I think the next ones are more, oh no, I'm gonna tell you the story at school. So, so I was a sophomore when we got a live model, and it was a big thing at conservative CMU, though it was the 60s. And so we had to have it like in it was actually in an auditorium, and they had to black out any window that, you know, it's because, and we had to pay ourselves rather than have it be part of our enrollment. So, so this year of this piece, that was that same model, and the word scoop it was one of those words that everyone used, and it meant a dozen different things. And so they had a juried show, and I was a sophomore, and most of the people that were in the juried show were graduate or seniors, and it took best of show, and it made such a statement because it was the nude model, and it got, so that was like, that was cool. So you know, that was matted and framed and became Scoop for Your Mama. That's what it was. Okay, so then I think we go into, so these are from Life Draw here. This guy was such a good model. He just was tall, and he just could pose, and you know, he was so languid. I loved drawing his work, and I think he's in there again, but anyway, so a little more, this is a piece from Life Draw here that began as a gesture, and then probably this was I don't know, maybe a 30-minute pose where we give them a break halfway through and then they get back in position again. We don't have as many props as we would like in so we're trying to upgrade that, but because sometimes it's fun to put the models in like knee socks and you get the contrast. The whole key when we have a model is that there's contrast between background and the skin so that we can, and the other thing that we tell them is we need open spaces. So we don't want you to stand like this. We want you to stand like this or like this. So we have negative space to work around and it makes the composition so much more fun. So, oh, this is out of focus, probably my fault. So we can just, these are just some gestures. Oh, that's interesting how this came out. Okay, so these two end ones are the same model. And Elena, yeah. So anyway, I'm really just showing you what you're seeing is progression of 40 years because 1960s, oh no, not even 40, like 50 years. I'm 76, so it's a long time ago that I did those things, started this. So, but it's still, you can, I think with any artist, you almost don't have to have a signature because once people see your work, they recognize it. So, especially with figures, I think. Okay, so then, okay, these are gestures that are pretty recent and clothes models, which it's wonderful to have a model, someone willing to sit and let you draw them, but it inhibits you because you don't see an elbow, you don't see a kneecap, you don't see bare feet, which I love bare feet, hands is what as much. And so again, we're looking for models and any age. Honestly, I think that some of my favorite models are over 50. So, okay, so this, another gesture. Doesn't she look like someone that's just going to judge you? You know, I don't know who that model was, but you know, that's what she's doing. I know her chin was tipped down. So 24, so yeah, that's a while ago, but this is one of my favorites. And this was that same gal that she was very lean, but which actually was good comparison to some of the more full-bodied we'd had, because she can fold herself up, you know, like this. She was just folded up, but she had this just petulant look about her. And any pose she went in, and it was just like this straight line mouth and these big eyes, and she was a good model. So this is in my studio. That's Michael again up there. And this one is from high school. So that's what I had. It was an album cover, probably Joni Baez or someone. And that was back when flowers were a big thing. And so that is, and clearly the guitar and her body are a little out of proportion, but I kept that. So anyway, I did bring, I brought some, this one's from college, and this is what I used to do because I love collage. And this, I would take some of the drawings and just like keep drawing on them after I left the studio. And so that's interesting, the way the light's hitting that. This one's from college. And I'm glad I kept all of these. I loved taking the human face and making it more of a character, not a caricature, but I don't know, piece of art, I guess. So, yeah. I think I have a couple of them. But these are what the reason I got these, I went to another drawer and found some that I've worked on more. So like I take a piece from Life Draw and then take it to the studio. And honestly, this texture right there is from rolling paint on that poppy stuff, the packing stuff, you know, and then you step on and on. Which is kind of, that's just, you feel that here too. This is something I do. I have one that, oh, I know, I was going to quickly talk about scale, because for me, I think this is that one that we had the video of, or the thing on. This is small paper for me. I don't know why I am the way I am. When you see Bob's work, it's so detailed and so beautiful, and it's like this stuff. And I can't do that. I don't know why. And so a lot of times my pieces are the, you know, the body, but no feet or no head, because I run out of room, because I start with ovals and I work large. I think it has to do with my foot size. So anyway, I don't know that there's anything else here you really need to see, but I think this is the one that we had yeah. Written on. And we're done? Oh, did I just drop that?
Just now, we're
Oh,
good.
I'm so sorry.
No,
This is how, so, do I need to ask questions now, or are we
I
gonna?
think we're gonna hear from everyone first, and then we'll move on to questions. So we'll hear from Patrick Wise
So,
now.
I think we did all my slides, right? Okay, good. So, we'll.
Okay.
Great. Ah, that's me. Hello, everyone. I'm Patrick Wise, and I'm also interested in the figure. It's just a great subject or vehicle, I think, to talk about other things. And it's just been natural for me to gravitate to the figure. So yeah, it's just, I think it's endless, what we can use. I mean, of course, it was so many things you brought up, Cynthia, and I want to thank you too for kicking us off, and your imagery and the gesture. I just love. That's one of the things that you'll see that I'm interested in, that sort of capturing something that maybe is connected to emotion, you know, in the gesture, how people hold themselves, you know, when they enter a room or when they're thinking about something. So I'm interested in that whole humanity part of us, right? And how that can be expressed on the outer. So the inner life being expressed in the outer, right? Physical form. So those are artists that I'm attracted to, of course, and when you can tell whether that intention is maybe. And then to give you a little bit of background for me, I went to school, art school, and kind of not a straight trajectory, but eventually settled into wanting to concentrate on the figure. And so I studied, you know, the technical aspects as they have you all do, form and space, all those good things that make for a good solid foundation. And then with the figure, of course, we look at anatomy, right? How to build that structure underneath all the fleshiness, to make it believable, right? So we need to know skeleton. And they have you start out by drawing that first bone, right? And then so on and so forth. I don't know how many bones there are in the human body. There's like a ton in the hand itself, right? But understanding the basics of how this form, which is so complex, you know, that was a solid foundation for me, understanding this movement, you know, how we're able to stand, right? It makes us different from other primates, you know, you know, this dynamic opposition we have of our forms. I love that term, dynamic opposition, right? So it's basically, it's this, our rib cage has this direction, and then our hips have this direction, and that's how we're able to stand. It's that opposing forces, right? So that's simple information for me. If I can put that into my drawing, it makes it sort of believable, right? Because that's how things operate. So having that technical information and then taking it and trying to be more expressive with it, you know, the gesture, that sort of thing. And feel free just to click through. Yeah, it's a little bit stiffer drawing, you know, and that's okay. But contrapposto, right? So that's the weight shift, right? So hopefully you feel that there's more, the weight is down on this back leg, right? That we love all these Italian words, you know, you get the, you know, so there's this whole shifting, right? So you go a shift this way and then a shift this opposite way so these opposing forces again that hold us up. And there's a feeling that there's you know, a force down that holds this figure up, right? And this leg would be relaxed, right? So we're generally one side or the other, you know? So you can look for that when you're studying this, if this is of interest to you, right? We look for these subtle things that we can use, this angular things, right? The shoulders, the hips, you know, going this way. You know, we look for those big shifts, right? And if we can capture those, things become a little bit more believable if that is your intent, right? It may not necessarily be your intent. Maybe we want the viewer to be put off or a little bit uneasy, so we can be conscious of those things and put those into our drawing. But I think we, so often, you've probably heard this said before, you sort of have to know the rules first before you break them, you know. But understanding this, I mean, it's a lifetime, right? It's a lifetime of work. This is the wonderful thing that it's never done, you know, this, because we can use this vehicle to talk about so many different things, especially this day and age. Well, those are kind of strange statements, but I'll just reference, you know, the religious, the political, so on and so forth, the male gaze. Now they're talking about the female gaze, right? In contemporary art. You know, you sort of mentioned, Cynthia, this pure form of the figure, the nude model, right? You know, even that can be controversial, right? Which is strange to me, but it is, right? Because you have these groups of people that make comment and opinion and that sort of thing. And so, you know, we can make comment with that the way we use this, whatever, you know, it is that you want to express.
It's like we worship. It's such a, we hold the human figure in such high regard.
Yeah, yeah.
That we're just so lucky to be able to do what that is.
Absolutely, absolutely. Gesture, right? Yeah, you know, we capture that energy of the human body. You know, so those are some of the can be negative of those things, the religious, the political. But, you know, but the other side of that, of course, is to celebrate what the human is able to accomplish and the energy that it can expound into the world, right? And how it can make people feel, right? That we're all walking around imperfect, and we can recognize that in each other. And I think that's what the figure, it's so instantly recognizable, even if it was abstracted. like Picasso used to do, right? We recognize ourselves in these forms. And so we have there's a back and forth now. And we can be empathetic to each other, and we can be understanding of each other, and, compassionate. This is the good, right? So yeah, it's important. And these are all old college days, right? So I'm older now. Go back 20 years. This is fairly new, something I did as a demonstration, I think here. Actually, I found an old canvas and painted on it. Fairly older one, and so I can use photographs as reference. These are some of my nieces and nephews years ago. And this is a wedding stuff that I do now as a part-time business. I go to people's weddings and I paint a scene of their choosing. So I work from photograph, but I'll do it right on site. So this is something that's sort of a thing, right? So I'm partly entertainment at their wedding. Their guests can look on, and I'll finish the painting while I'm there, basically. And so then they have a product to take with them. So this is I'll take that. Thank you. Movement is good. I like movement, energy. Watercolor. So the first one was oil. This is watercolor. So I play around with different media. Yeah. Large painting. Not that large, but it was a larger painting. Of course, break wall. Yeah. So there we go. Thank you. Oh, yes. There you are.
Got some notes. I'm Heidi Huck, so I'm going to address this a little bit more, sort of the structure of the course as it is now in Crooked Tree, because we're taking a slightly different shift. Over the last year, we've been doing more long poses, Bob and I, and some other people. But we're opening it up now again to figure drawing, and we'll be doing long poses probably the third week of every month. And then the other weeks we'll be doing the figure. So figure drawing from life, just tried and true tradition, probably since the Renaissance, when people first decided to really look at observation for instruction and to inform their drawings and their artwork. I think every school has got some degree of figure drawing in it. And it's wonderful that we can offer it here, and really at reasonable prices, particularly if you're a guild member. It's really cut rate. You won't find another opportunity where you can, as my previous speakers have said, the opportunity to work with a live model is such a gift. So I encourage everyone, because you can really just from the start, if you've never drawn before, it's a good thing to do. If you do it consistently, you will see your progression and improvement over time. So having said that, my work is really just from the last year, and it's the Long Pose Studio, which is a 3-hour session with one model in one pose. Now that does give you some choices. You can, I often choose the portrait, but you could do the whole figure. You don't have to do the same pose. The model stays in the same place, but you as the artist can move around the room and, do a profile, do something head on, do something from underneath, adjust the lighting. You can do both pencil or paint or pastel. The long pose gives you the opportunity to not just do the quick sketches, which are wonderful, energy and loosening you up, but this allows you to mix your paints, to go more into the values, more intense rendering, and to work on your palette. You can get the skin tones and detail that you really can't do in those quick 1 minute to 10-minute sketches. All right. So here's an example. This is a usual setup for me. We have a model sitting now. This model has, because it's a 3-hour pose, they have to be fairly comfortable. So you want them to sort of get a sight line that they can come back to. It's done in 20-minute increments. So the model has to sit there for 20 minutes, and if they fall asleep, we kind of wake them up. Then they get a break. You can take that opportunity to switch your position, or you can continue on. I often use that chance to do like the background or maybe the hair, something that I don't need the model to be sitting there precisely. Next. And you can see, you can get much more detail and working for a likeness if that's what you want to achieve. Next one. Working from life, it's different than photographs in that you can get a much broader range of colors. The human eye can see so much more than a photograph, which simplifies the image. You don't see what's in the shadow as well. And this allows you to really challenge yourself. I mean, there is a time limit. It's 3 hours, but it still gets you out there. It allows you to be brave and improves your observational skill, works on your artistic memory from going from looking at the model, looking at your work. What can you remember? What you know, the anatomy, all those things that we've dealt with before. And we get a range of models, fortunately. They are closed for the 3 hours because I think they would get very cold otherwise. But the other thing about this is to teach you, models also move, even though they're in the same pose. Something happens, the hair goes, it's behind the ear, it's in front of the ear. You can choose to focus on that, or you may, or the portrait, the figure, or you could just do, say, the hands or the feet if you wanted to. It's a low risk but high reward process. And I truly think over the course of a year, I really found myself getting better. And it's wonderful to see that progress. And I can say really anyone from the very, very, very beginner to someone who's quite accomplished, as our artists are here. It gives you focus, go ahead, and endurance, resilience, sort of. It's almost a meditation when you have the opportunity, you've got that 3-hour slot. You don't have to, I come with canvas paper, nothing too ornate, but you can come with a pencil, you can come with a crayon and still get something out of it. Next picture. And the other wonderful thing about it is the community. I've really developed some wonderful friendships, seeing people regularly in this sort of the very low stress situation where you're dealing with the same sort of problems, the same questions, how to approach this particular painting, the same challenges. I've learned to be brave, and also I learned something from all my colleagues in there, how to pace yourself, where to go next. And then I take it home and you look at it and you study and you go, okay, I know next time I'm going to approach it from this way. I'm going to, take another stand or another chance at it. And every week you've got another opportunity. So I strongly recommend anyone to come. We're a great group and would love to have more people there. And that's it for me. Oh, yes.
Hi, I'm Robert Scudder. These guys have all covered it. It was fun day. I got nothing else for them. But no, I mean, there's all sorts of different approaches to live models. I personally like to work specifically on portraits, and I understand the value of what Patrick and Cynthia do. But with our open studio, you really kind of need 3 hours to start to lock it down. Be back. Get some water. we started this about 1.5 years ago. And one of the reasons that we started it was, if you travel around the country, a lot of places do this, a lot of art stuff. And we have Trish Morgan that, she used to travel 1.5 hours one way to do this in Traverse City. So, so that's why we started it. I guess, really, Heidi covered a lot of it. Patrick covered a lot of it. This is just, a 3-hour, study. Excuse me. I guess I don't know what else to cover.
Maybe we should open up to questions.
Yeah, let's go for questions.
Get started.
Well, I kind of follow these people around the country and they were all doing it. I'm going, we should do this here. So we started it. We pretty much have about 3 or 4 people that come every week. We're only doing it once a month now. And that's how we started it. And
Way back, like, how did you start drawing the figure to begin with, before you helped get this started at Crooked Tree?
well, my history is, it's funny because when I go back into the 60s and 70s, this is what I painted, was people. Not many figures, was what I did. I kind of went and got a job, and then I went back to it about 10 years ago. So I started painting people again. So then we tried to get the open studio, and I think it's been successful. I think the issue is that there's not a lot of people that do it, and that's why we want you all to come and do it. What other questions do you have? I mean,
It up to questions. So if you have questions for any of the individuals
Yeah.
to address to them, or just for them as a group, we can look at these later. These are links to our upcoming Longpost studio. Just to clarify, every Friday we have an open studio. We like people to register in advance, but it's also drop in, and it's on a rotation. So sometimes it's a 3-hour long pose, sometimes it's a closed figure drawing, and then episodically it's a nude model. So you kind of have to look at it's a little bit of a scheduling puzzle to work out. If you're looking for a nude model, you kind of have to look, those are less frequent than the closed model and the long pose studio. But there is open studio every drawing with a live model every Friday. But if you have questions for any of the individuals or for them as a group, let's just open it up to questions then.
sorry about losing my voice the minute I walk up here. So
Was wondering, I noticed because we were studying it, Heidi, I think a couple of your pictures where they have some background color, but then there wouldn't be anything like this, right? You know what I mean? I just wonder, like, why you leave it like that, or what the reason is for that?
Yeah, well, partly it's time. I think Cynthia was speaking of negative space, and as you're doing, I'm most interested in the facial features, and then the hair and how that frames the face. But the jawline or the neck or something requires, for you to see it, sometimes requires that background. So that's when I would put those blocks of color in. I'm oil, your media.
Can you repeat the
Um,
question? I don't hear well, so I wear hearing aids and it's such a
Yeah.
struggle, so.
What the media, what you
medium?
use, yeah, oil, paints.
Well, if I'm painting a painting that I'm going to put in the gallery, I work in oil. But when I'm doing sessions with Life Draw, I just acrylic paint, and I have 2 colors that I just mix, and that's what I loose paint with. But my finished work is oil, but honestly, I'll work with anything. I mean, graphite, I love graphite, I love charcoal, love, yes. I don't need to
Patrick,
go
yeah.
on and on.
Your media, do the other two want to talk about your?
Oh,
media?
I strictly paint in oils. I don't paint anything. I don't have enough time to learn the other ones.
So loose, now I think you just do loose painting with acrylic, or can you do it with oil?
Oh, you can.
You can do it.
Both, yeah.
There's a list out there if anyone leaving wants to sign up to model.
Modeling's fun. I did it once. Of course, I have my voice back now that I'm not standing up
Of
front.
course.
You want to talk, you want to get up some more?
No. But
I think what we should do, we should sign up people we know.
to be here Friday.
I'll,
Now,
uh.
that's the new part that's gonna be tough to sell. So,
I'll volunteer some information, not on the models, different subject, but, I taught, here at one time, the figure and sort of the, more of the foundational kind of stuff, you know, where, sort of the way that I was brought up and taught, starting with the anatomy and that sort of thing, what I referenced. And then, so there's some talk that we may try to bring that back. So I'll say, be on the lookout if anybody is interested in that sort of thing. You know, for me, as a person learning, I appreciate somebody that can break things down into simple concepts. And as complex as the figure and the portrait is, it can be broken down.
Yeah.
You know, through our good teachers that we've experienced, we've been fortunate ourselves, right? So anyways, hopefully we bring that back again as well.
Talk about a plan for the fall.
Yeah.
I actually took Patrick's class.
Mhm.
a couple years ago.
Curious, with an open studio, do you interact and help each other out with your compositions you're working on? Is there some sense of like informal instruction going
yeah.
on?
Yeah.
We're always looking over other
Sure
shoulders
wanna
and
do it that way.
I
Why?
think, no, I think.
I can't, not my thing, but I appreciate what all you do.
For me, because I spend so much time alone, and part of that, I think I isolate because of my hearing loss, but also my studio that I'm there and that's what I do. So this camaraderie, it's so juicy for me to get with other artists who love what they're doing, because that's what, nobody shows up for Life Drop to look at a naked body. They show up to draw, to paint, to just marvel. I interrupted your speech to say that's, the human body's so amazing.
Mm.
It's just so complex and it's so wonderful, and everyone does it differently and sees it differently. And I think our intimacy in that studio setting is, I love it. I miss it when I don't have it. So
Mhm.
But to answer your question, yes, we'll walk around.
And there's 5-minute breaks.
Yeah, it's 5-minute break.
Give some encouragement.
Yeah,
Or if you have trouble with someone, you might bring up something else and they'll look at your work and say, well, think about this.
sometimes,
Maybe.
maybe. Maybe, and on the other hand, you have to be cautious about. what
Right,
you
not
say.
everyone's receptive.
So
Yeah, not-
I compare it to having a writing group, how you interact with each
Yes,
other
yeah.
supporting your writing. So
Yeah.
it's similar.
Yes.
If you're asked, you're
If you're
offended,
asked.
but you don't normally, you wouldn't normally.
Yeah. Oh, no.
I just want to ask some of you to elaborate on this. Having done some figure drawing myself, Heidi, you mentioned how different it is than working from a photograph.
Yes.
You're in that space, you're looking at relationships between things. It's so live. You can't, with a photograph, you can, whatever, it's, you can keep coming back to it. The photograph is kind of missing information that you have with a live model. Patrick, you talk about, you talk about the energy of the person and sort of getting a, sense of their humanity, which from a photograph gets kind of stylized. I wonder if any of you could elaborate on the difference between working with a live model and working from a photograph. And Patrick, you do sometimes work from photographs, so I don't know if any of you could speak to that, because I think there's really a profound difference. But you're the figure drawers, not me, so.
Oh, I mean, I could look at someone else's work like that as a photograph, and I couldn't do it. I wouldn't know even where to begin, because I think every artist, every person has a different way of seeing. I would not see such a calm thing. I would make it, more crazy or something. I don't know, but photographs don't move and they don't breathe and they don't have any energy emoting. And when we get a model in there that's comfortable and that you've drawn a couple of times, it's just like, you just know it, and it's almost like you don't even have to think about it. You just look and you just draw the line because that's exactly where it belongs. And but it's the energy. It's the energy that emotes that you pick up and it shows up in your piece.
Yeah,
I'll stop talking.
no, it's good. I can totally relate to that. I'll just pick up on the last word,
Yeah.
the energy.
Yeah.
And it can, for me, it can come from either source. There's different things going on, of course, so from the photograph to real life, or from our imaginations, right?
Yes,
Completely from our
yes, yes.
imagination. That's the other third element, right? And maybe it's a combination of those things. Usually, filtered through us, right? And
Right,
what it is
that's
your
exactly
intention
it.
is, So it gets complex, right? And there's a whole study, and we can study what is the differences and what does the limitations to a
Mhm.
photograph, right? So I use it as a reference a lot of times,
Mhm.
I'm not trying for photorealism necessarily, right? As they talk about.
But you're foreshortening. You're amazing at that. And that's an applied knowledge that you have, that when
Yeah.
a foot moving forward and it
Yes.
really, oh my God, I could touch that. You are, yeah.
Well, that's a nice compliment, because we know for the beginner student,
yeah.
that's a clear giveaway, right? If they don't
Well, if you
understand
get a person
foreshortening,
that looks
right?
like this, as opposed to a person that,
Right.
something's coming forward, something's leaning back, you
Yeah.
do that so well.
Well, those big Picasso feet coming at
yeah.
you, right? The big Picasso hands, the things coming in and out of depth, right?
yeah.
So yeah, we
Well, the
have
same
we-
human body,
on
yeah.
the same body. We learn all these little tips and tricks, right?
Tips and tricks.
Yeah,
Oh.
pay for that from that education that we got. Because, we're in the business of creating illusion, right? This is a flat piece of paper,
Exactly.
painting, whatever. So there's this illusion of depth, right? I think what you're referencing there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say Bob does both a lot of work from
Mm.
live models and from photographs. So I'm curious about how your experience with a live model then informs what you do when you work from photographs.
Well, when you work from a live model, I mean, it's you get a dimensional sense of light and form, where photographs you can't believe. And when I talk to people about, especially portrait work, two things. One is a camera distorts things, especially your iPhone, because it has a wide angle lens and so everything's distorted. So you have to be aware of that. Plus, cameras they'll make the darkers darker and the lights lighter. They'll burn them out. So you just have to be aware of that stuff, but it's just different. For instance, if we were, and we'll do this occasionally in the studio, you paint for 3 hours and you go, okay, I want to take a picture of this model just in case I want to finish it. You go, you go back, you go home, you look at your photograph, you look at the painting, you go, they don't look the same. They don't even look close. So if you painted it from that photograph compared to when you were standing in the studio, it's dramatically different. So there's a lot of things that you need to consider. And we're talking about different animals, because you guys you guys are, you're doing this, I'm doing this. So, so you have to be very aware of what a camera does. They're a great tool. You can Google it and find out. You get a primary lens, if you shoot something in a portrait mode, it won't distort it as bad. So, but you have to compensate, but it's not the same. It's funny, you go back and go, well, that's not what I was painting this afternoon.
Bob, question for you. I was telling Bob before they got started that the fourth graders I brought through here, they were such a good group last week, just had so many good questions, but they were drawn to Bob's work and they were comparing all three of his works. He has a still life on this wall and then the two portraits straight through there. So the portraits were those, well, the one on the bottom is you, right?
Yeah.
You and your daughter, so that.
About a
has to
month
be-
ago, yeah.
You can't well have a live, someone sitting live for that one, but your portrait of your daughter, was she modeling for you live, or was that how did you paint that one? Curious.
That photo, that reference was taken in my garage on her wedding day.
I thought it was a wedding, yeah.
Oh.
Tell me that story.
And just to answer your question, I think where you're going is, no, I didn't leave, I modified. I want this to be a painting. I don't want to render the photograph.
Sure.
That's the defining difference.
But did you take the photo of her while she was there and then work from it?
Yeah.
'Cause- Okay.
Yeah, well, I didn't-
Say, how long did you paint her?
She was busy, so was I.
Yeah.
Now the one on the bottom, that's different. That was 35 years ago.
Yeah, they picked that out too. They recognized that they were related in some way. We talked about that.
Really?
But those, they were so. And there were a lot of images here they want to talk about, but those.
Well, thank you.
And then we've got Heidi's also, right,
Yeah.
just to the right of that, the woman with the sleeping dog,
dog.
which has also been a popular one. We bring fourth graders here for tours, and then we also do a studio project, and this studio project involved having a few images from the exhibitions, and the kids are storyboarding, so they have one image and then they invent a story. So I know that Heidi's has been a popular one about we'll have to share some of the stories. I
I'd love
recorded
to
some
hear it.
yesterday.
Yeah.
They're real big. Then.
And
Bringing
carrying
it
all
to
of Heidi's work was another thing they wanted to do. They wanted to look at all three of them and compare your work. They noticed that. So that's an interesting experience for them.
Okay, we've got time for maybe one more question before
No,
we're.
great comment.
Yeah.
It's not really a question, but just hearing and seeing all of your work and noticing how you're sitting and how I'm shifting my weight, and as I can't help but see everything differently now. We're all kind of, in our positions.
And that's a great
work is
pose you
done.
got with your feet there to draw. There, are you looking at that, Patrick, right there? Sign up.
It's caught me at tense, as I feel like I see the world differently afterwards, or I walk away with something. So really appreciate sharing.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's
yeah, it's really quite a compliment.
I could sit in an airport and, all those people in that row, you pick the one that. Oh, sorry,
Just start.
Oh,
Excellent.
Well, thank you. I want to just express my gratitude. These folks came together. They had less than a week to prepare for this. So I'm just so grateful to each one of them for coming today. And of course, I forgot to acknowledge Comfort Keepers. Thanks. And we do hope, and Roast and Toast, we're always grateful, and have some more coffee and pastries on the way out. If you're interested in figure drawing, there are links here. And thanks for coming. Thanks, Patrick.
Good to see you.